For this part of the training, we would like to discuss a little bit more about what data sets are in the Resilience Atlas. So again, the Resilience Atlas is a web-based mapping platform created by Conservation International, and we created a Food Security IAP Atlas for this project. So if you follow me to foodsecurityIAP.resilienceatlas.org/map, we will go to the Resilience Atlas for this project. Now, again, you'll see this project sites outlined, but I want to talk about what other data sets are within these drop-down categories on the left of the atlas. So of course, we have the project sites as reported by the countries, the project countries highlighting where this project is working, and some administrative boundaries just for context. Now, as we move along to contextual factors, I wanted to note that there are several different tiers of data sets and indicators that were outlined in our monitoring framework. Tier 1 indicators, which are applied at the regional level, are the focus of this atlas. These are often publicly available data sets that are broadly available across the entire region, often derived from remote sensing products and model products. Now, where possible, we're adding Tier 2 and Tier 3 indicators. Tier 2 taking advantage of more detailed analysis or data collection taking place across a large number of the individual country projects. So again, highlighting those countries. Tier 2 will often come from the country projects themselves. Tier 3 indicators will draw on project-specific data sets. So these sites that we've highlighted here. But they're more specialized indicators. So they're not expected to be collected commonly by the country projects, but they may appear in, for example, census data sets that are collected frequently by national governments. So this first category, contextual factors, has some data sets just to kind of give you a little bit of information about various parameters in countries. So the production systems, we look at agriculture, where different commodities are produced. We can look further at this list of various crops as well, and see what staple crops or which crops that are essential for crop diversity could be produced in an area of interest. This fisheries data set looks at marine fisheries production. It's a modeled product looking in the future. Now the ecosystems, we have biodiversity hotspots and tree canopy cover, looking at forest cover. We also have the World Database of Protected Areas, if you want to look at where formal protection exists in a country. We also have land productivity modeled for very specific countries from our partners at the Earth Observation for Sustainable Development Consortium. They've also created this gross biomass water productivity product, which covers all of sub-Saharan Africa. We've highlighted here for the countries involved in this project. Now, what's nice is they have annual gross biomass water productivity. You'll see this for a number of data sets that we have available in the atlas. You can also compare from 2009 annually up to 2017. And also, quite interestingly, this trends in gross biomass water productivity. So looking at that trends over the time period that they have modeled. For this project, we've created several land cover maps for each of the project countries. These are at a fine scale resolution, so looking at 10-meter resolution for each country. So for example, if I turn on the data set for Senegal, you'll see It's a very fine resolution data set. We also have some climate data sets, just for context on climate. FAO has, or the EO for SD has also created the ground biomass production data set, again, 2009 to 2017, leading up to the project start. And we also have this drop down for ecosystem services, because a key goal of the IAP is to support the mainstreaming of ecosystem services into development planning and to safeguard the natural capital that supports these services. We've begun populating these, looking at, for example, actual evapotranspiration as a provisioning service. Other examples of provisioning services are looking at fodder production, so where grassland exists and the productivity of that, crop production, productivity of agricultural land, water provisions like surface water availability or groundwater availability, and of course, evapotranspiration. There are two other ecosystem service categories, regulating and cultural. Now, cultural is looking really at the aesthetic value of natural areas, natural land cover types, which could be derived from remote sensing, or, for example, tourism, so number of visitors to a natural feature. Now, for regulating, things like climate regulation, so changes in soil carbon or above ground biomass, below ground biomass, erosion prevention, so potential soil erosion, as well as water flow regulation, looking at soil characteristics or nutrient retention. So we continue to find the best available data sets to add to these categories. Now, if you're looking at stressors and shocks and monitoring stressors and shocks, which could impact food security resilience, we have several categories again here. For some climatic parameters, we are looking at rainfall. We have current and historical, so looking at the trend in historical total annual rainfall, for example. So this is looking at 1985 to 2015 period. We can see how rainfall has historically changed up to the project start. There's also several climate projections. So you can see what is expected to happen under these various RCP pathways. The same for temperature. We have future projections and the current and historical, looking at mean daily minimum temperature, mean daily mean temperature, trend of those temperatures. So you can also compare those minimum and maximum temperatures, as they may be very specific for crops. Forest change as well is a global data set. So you can monitor forest loss, for example, from 2000 to 2019. We also have several surface water data sets looking at flooding, changes in flood occurrences, changes in the changes in surface water, and presence of surface water based on seasonality, recurrence, occurrence, extent. We also have degradation, looking at land degradation. This is one of the Sustainable Development Goal indicators, 15.3.1, looking at land degradation neutrality, and specifically looking at the changes in area degraded over time, broken down by these three subcategories as well: changes in primary productivity, land cover, or soil organic carbon as a proxy for carbon stocks. Some more data sets from the EO for SD folks, looking at evapotranspiration changes over time, again, at specific areas. And then we have some other categories that we're still looking for data sets: disease, access to markets, of course, food security, There are some modeled products from FuseNet, that famine early warning systems network that does current and future projections of food security outcomes. So this covers most of the countries in the project, but not all of them. Finally, assets and capacities. Now, these data sets are mostly comprised of tier 2 and 3, so we're building these out further as we get some more information in from country projects, from national census, where we can get some more localized information. We do have, for example, assets. We have these livelihood zones where we can see the kind of top livelihood for each region that has been mapped. And some other health parameters from the Demographic and Health Surveys program. So this is collected every couple of years in several countries, and we can look at these health outcomes, looking at underweight or wasting, fertility rate, things that could impact resilience. We also have the use of these assets. So many of these are data sets we're still seeking out. For example, access to agricultural advisory or inputs. So what farmers can actually have access to, small grants, savings, membership in economic organizations like cooperatives, farming organizations, just ways to be able to actually access essential resources for improving the productivity or improving production. Also the leadership or membership in these organizations. Some other at the household level information that we could derive from social surveys would be like land management, for example, looking at crop rotation, soil and water management, knowledge management sharing, kind of area of traditional crop varieties and number of animal breeds, as well as that trends in population of the breeds and of crop varieties, as well as kind of looking at governance, the level of mutual decision making, distribution of tasks across members of the family. And then for capacities, we're really looking again at social surveys, like coping strategies, employment status, adoption of new technologies, exposure to mass media and literacy. So these are all helpful to understand how people can access different resources and their capacity to use the resources that they are given. So we hope that the Resilience Atlas can be a meaningful resource to not just look at very localized areas information, but also to be able to derive these insights across regions. So looking at a broader region of sub-Saharan Africa and how these individual projects contribute at a larger scale. Thank you.